Hello and welcome to tonight's Wealth Builders webinar. I am really excited about this tonight because it's touching on one of those topics I absolutely love, which is fix and flips. And I've got my great coaching friends on here and they tease me because I tend to over improve, you might say, fix and flips, but I get to talk about design tonight too, guys. So this is like totally our sweet spot. And I've got my amazing son and daughter-in-law, Levi and Carly Conrad, that are joining us. So, Levi and Carly, do you want to greet everybody tonight?
Hello.
Oh, thank you so much for logging on.
Yes, we're so excited to be here. We live in Florida and we just would love to hear where you're watching from tonight if you want to drop it in the chat.
That is awesome. And we're going to pull that up. We're going to give you some shout outs. Also, I just want to welcome Frank Pulley, who is, I'm telling you, I've been in a lot of calls with Frank today. Frank,
Yeah,
you are amazing. You are so solid. You're like that patriarch, right, in real estate. So, do you want to greet everybody?
of course. You're not too bad yourself, Karen. Hey, everybody. It's going to be a great evening. We got some great topic matter, and just sit back, listen, take a few notes, and enjoy.
Oh, that's awesome. And we have Pastor Mike Davis. We were just, I don't want to like embarrass you too much, Mike, but Mike has lost 12 pounds. And we were just commenting, like, wow, look at this healthy guy. And he is such an amazing spiritual like guide for us in coaching. Billy always says he wants a pastor in coaching. And
Yes.
Pastor Mike is that guy. Mike, do you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, everyone, and it is great to be part of the team. I think we have an awesome team, Karen, and I'm looking forward to what you guys got for us tonight.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. And I just want to like recognize people as they're signing on. We've got Renee from Delaware. We've got Robert from Massachusetts, Kelly from Maryland. Hello, Lorianne. Laura Ann from Connecticut. We've got Dan Harvey coming in from Colorado Springs, Desiree from Littleton. Jack and Maureen are tuning in from Connecticut. So good to see you guys. Well, actually, wait a minute. Jack, you are in Connecticut, but Maureen, you're in North Carolina, part of our coaching family. We're so glad to have you on. We've got Larissa on from Oklahoma, Sally tuning in from Delaware, but she said she grew up in Fort Lauderdale, so another Florida connection there. Hey, Lance, good to see you. We've got Lance Williams from Arkansas via Colorado. Now, there's a story there, but Lance, we're so blessed that you are on. Thank you. We've got Bob tuning in from Loveland, Colorado. Candace from Wisconsin. Welcome. Aaron, good to see you from East Texas. We love Aaron and Kevin. They're part of our coaching family too. We've got Brittany from New York. Kevin, you are tuning in with Aaron. I love it. Thank you so much. We've got Minnie from Corpus Christi. We've got Azucena. I'm not sure where you're from, but I hope I pronounced that right. We are so glad to have you. Sherry from Oklahoma. Tanya watching from Australia, Holly from Florida, Emmanuel from Oklahoma, Mona Lee from Maryland, Raven from Colorado, Yvonne from Michigan, Sarah from Colorado Springs. Oh, thank you. Azucena is from Arizona, Rachel from Australia. Wow, we've got people tuning in all over the world. And I just want to tell you, we are so grateful that you are taking time to spend with us tonight. And I think this is really going to be a fun webinar. Who doesn't like fix and flips, right? If you watch HGTV, you'll love fix and flips. And I want to remind you that tonight, this is an interactive webinar. So we're going to get through as much as possible here to give you the information that you need and save about 15 minutes at the end to answer your real estate questions. And the way that you enter that is go ahead and put it in the chat section if you are joining us by Zoom, or if you're watching by Facebook tonight, you can put it in the comment section. And we've got our amazing team that is standing by, ready to send those questions forward. Also, I just want to remind you, we've got the real estate workshop coming up. You guys, can you believe it? It's next weekend, April 5th through the 7th. It's a 3-day real estate intensive. We're almost sold out in person. So if you want to come in person, please register. We want to see you. Go to wealthbuilders.org/events, and you can choose either in person or live stream. So here we go. We are going to go ahead and get started on fix and flips. And Levi and Carly, as I pull the PowerPoint up, would you just give people a little bit of background about what you are doing and kind of how you're connected to all of this and what you're doing in Florida?
Totally. Well, we're the very blessed offspring of Karen Conrad. We both actually work in real estate full time. We are kind of the operations of our family real estate company, which is flipping properties, owning long-term rentals and short-term rentals, and we actually manage the Airbnbs that we own. Kind of what sprung up after that to kind of support our primary business was Carly and I own a construction company in Brevard County, Florida, and a small residential cleaning company as well that serves like our properties first, and then other properties or clients that we work with that are also investors as well. And we just kind of run the day-to-day operations of our own budding real estate business,
Yeah.
which we love.
Yeah, so too, just to add to that a little bit, Levi, you are actually a real estate agent. So you got licensed, and we're going to unpack some of the strategy tonight as far as why we've made the choices that we're making. And Carly is like the marketing person. She really oversees a lot of the cleaning. So this is truly a family business. This is what we talk about all the time about building generational wealth. So you can all see that we really walk the talk. I mean, we are living this, and we couldn't do what we're doing without Levi and Carly. And I love the multi-generational aspect of this. And we're going to show you like the things we lean into, each of us, to kind of contribute to this family business. And then also, I just want to let you know that Levi and Carly will be a part of, they will be at the workshop next weekend, and they're going to be part of the Young Entrepreneurs. So if you are younger, 40 years old or younger, you can actually attend, or if you have family, you can attend at the workshop, the Young Entrepreneurs Networking. And that is just a place to connect for these young people. There's just nothing like getting near like-minded people for our kids and our grandkids. And Levi and Carly are a big part of that. So thanks so much, you guys. We're going to go ahead and get started talking about successful fix and flips. What Levi, you kind of mentioned too, is that we do like BRRRRs, if you've heard of that. Fix and flips are technically the ones that after you fix them up, you sell them. But BRRRRs have that element of fix and flip to them, but we turn them into either a long-term or a short-term rental. And so part of our sweet spot is to pick up properties that need some tender loving care, that need some updates, make them beautiful, and then we actually look at them and make a determination. Do we sell this? Do we hold it as a buy and hold, or do we launch it as an Airbnb? All right, so this is just a really great reminder here of the viability of building wealth through real estate. So listen to this. Over the last 2 centuries, about 90% of the world's, not just the US, the world's millionaires have been created by investing in real estate. For the average investor, real estate offers the best way to develop significant wealth. Now, I don't have this statistic there, but I want to share with you, when you look at rental properties, even though 90% of the millionaires around the world have been created from real estate investments, only 12% of people even own one investment property. And so I find that really interesting. It's like when you have statistics like that, yet a small amount of people actually leverage it, to me, that's a huge opportunity. And just a reminder here of Deuteronomy 8:18, but you shall remember with profound respect the Lord your God, for it is he who is giving you power to make wealth, that he may confirm his covenant, which he swore solemnly promised to your fathers, as it is this day. When I really understood this for the first time, it was definitely an aha. I was like, wait a minute, do you mean that wealth is created? That wealth is made? I used to think there was a finite amount of wealth in the world. And for me to get wealth, I would actually have to take it from someone else. That is not the case. And that's where, with real estate, as you tap into this principle, you can create wealth, which is part of God's promise to us. And I think that is incredibly exciting. So these are the things that we're going to cover. We're going to do a little overview of fix and flips. We're going to do the pros and cons, and I'm going to have Levi and Carly share some realities of it. It's not all like amazing. There are some challenges, but you can get through them. It's important, I think, that as part of your real estate strategy, we're going to go over the steps of a flip, finding the right markets to flip in. What do you look for? Real estate financing for flips, taxes and 1031 exchanges. And then we're going to have some fun looking at before and afters, and then share with you how you can get in the game. All right, so all the photos that we have in here are some of our properties. So I thought it was really fun to kind of insert those in here so you can see a little bit of what we've been working on. All right, so let's talk about what, fix and flips are, like a definition. House flipping typically refers to purchasing distressed properties, fixing them up, and then reselling them for profit. Some find these properties through foreclosures, bank short sales, or property auctions. Initially, most purchase them through the regular MLS in the sales process. And I'm going to ask Levi and Carly to comment right here. We found all of our properties, if I recall, unless I'm missing something, we found them all through the MLS process. And so Levi, maybe you could take a moment and just share, like, you found some amazing properties. What do you look for on the MLS for these properties?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I think it's kind of a process of elimination in a sense. The MLS is like really accessible, which is a good thing for you, but it's negative because everyone else can see those properties too. So a lot of times when you're shopping the MLS, it takes like 10 offers to have one viable deal, and you're usually offering below market. So the way that we target MLS properties is, we have a good idea of like the kind of neighborhoods that we want to buy in, and we know what the properties are fixed up. And we've done enough rehabs to where we have a rough per square foot cost that it takes to fix them up. And there's some variables there like HVAC or roof or other things are kind of fixed costs that you might be able to keep. But as far as looking at houses that are close to meeting that criteria or those numbers for a property that we can make money on as a flip after we get done fixing up and paying the bank to and paying the title company and paying seller commissions when we go to sell, all that stuff, they're gonna all be distressed. They're not gonna be good looking homes typically when you buy them. So
Yeah.
we know what we know what the houses are going to be worth when they're done. And we know because we know the neighborhoods and we know how much it's going to cost to fix them up because we've done enough where we know how much per square foot. So then it becomes a process of elimination of just looking at all the distressed properties, doing a really quick calculation, which you're going to get into the calculation in the next few slides, and then just start making offers to properties. They may not all be written. Maybe you're just, you know, writing an offer contingent on inspection, and you're making offers for what you would need to pay, and you're seeing what sticks. That's, I think, like the strategy that we've used the most successfully is to not get emotionally attached to a house. Know what your numbers are, have your criteria for what you need to pay, and then just start making offers.
Yeah, that's really good, Levi. You are really good at finding these. And I know one of the things, because you've just gotten into like the kind of the groove of it, you know what to look for. When we just did this, unfortunately, the house went under contract, but we'll just send you, hey, what do you think of this? And then pretty soon, Levi, you send back something. Here's an analysis. Here's what what it would cost, here's what it would sell for, and then you basically come to the bottom line. This is what we need to offer or be able to get it for this to work. And that's super helpful, and it's based on these calculations. All right, so successful flipping requires being able to identify undervalued properties with potential, understanding how much to do, like not too much or too little, to increase the value for the least investment, what the ARV is, what Levi was just talking about, and managing the work and holding costs. Once the renovations are complete, you'll need to list and market the property. And one of the things that you guys alluded to at the beginning is we have really learned, and you guys have learned, for us to do this and to do it viably, right? Where we're not necessarily paying a bunch of other people, but we're paying ourselves. We've learned what it takes to improve properties through hiring handymen, like contractors and all of that. And then what we have done as a family is we have actually brought it in-house in a way through that construction company that Levi was talking about, where he can manage a lot of the things, definitely do the general work. And there's a lot of benefits to that. That's in the financing too, that we'll explain to you. But we first kind of cut our teeth through using other people to sort of learn what does this look like. But now I would just say Levi and Carly, through the things that we have done, we've really streamlined those costs and figured out how much we can take on for contractors or employees to be able to reduce our overall costs of doing the construction. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's if you're doing enough volume, I think most of the big flippers that I know end up having an in-house team. I think there's probably four different levels of pricing on a rehab. Your highest level of pricing is going to be just like if you were a homeowner, you call a general contractor, you say, I want a new kitchen, I want quartz, countertops, cabinets, this backsplash, whatever. And that general contractor is going to make about 40 to 50% profit on that job. He's going to mark up the material. He's going to mark up the labor as far as the subcontractors go. And he's going to pull the permits, and you won't have to do anything. That's like kind of your easiest level, but your most expensive. That's what I would call your retail price. And then a notch below that is how we got started, which was generaling our own projects, but we hire the subcontractors. So we are getting subcontractor rates. We're not getting a discount on materials. We're just buying them from Home Depot or wherever, but we're also not getting marked up on them. And we are paying subcontractor rates, and that's sort of the second tier. The third tier, which is where we're at now, is we're buying our material in bulk. We're in some cases buying flooring actually straight from China. So we're paying half what they would even sell it at Home Depot for. So we're marking up our own materials, and we have salaried employees. And these aren't plumbers or electricians, but these are your trim carpenters, framers, other people that, like, we have a couple really skilled guys that can do a bunch of different work that don't require like an architect or to, a general contractor to pull like really elaborate permits. And that's kind of where we're at now. And I think that really opens up a lot of deals, at least for us, like on the MLS. So we can look at a property in MLS and maybe there's not as much spread as you would normally want to see on a flip. But if we can do $100,000 rehab for 60,000, that just produced 40,000 extra profit, and we can make a lot more deals work, which has helped us a lot. But
It
you
has.
you do have to work up to that.
Yeah, that's really good. And I mean, we'll go into more detail on this in the upcoming workshop, April 5th through the 7th, but there's a reason to do it the way that we do, because you might be thinking like, why are there's a profit coming back to the construction company. We'd rather pay ourselves and pay someone else, but there's a very good reason for that when it comes to financing, to do it the way that we're doing. So we'll get into a little bit of that, but again, to learn more about it, like the nuances of it and what we learned, you can learn from our experience on a couple of properties, that there's just some things to navigate through that's going to really maximize the ability to get the most cash out of that property when it's done. So more to come on that. Thank you so much, Levi. That was helpful. All right, there are pros and cons to flipping, and flipping is one of those things. I love it. Like It's an adrenaline thing for me. Absolutely love it. And I think our whole family does. But I just want to make sure that everybody understands that there are some risks involved too. There's some really great upper end things, like really good outcomes, which we have had, but you want to go in with your eyes wide open. So here's an overview of fix and flips. You could have the potential to make a large amount of money in a short period of time and to bring in cash flow, which is really important as you go down your journey of becoming and being a consistent real estate investor. I've got a little chart that I'll show you what that looks like. We really encourage to have multiple exit strategies. You could have the option of selling to an owner occupant, you could sell to an investor, or you can actually sell it as a turnkey. So we'll go more into that with you. Just be aware that it is taxed as earned income if you sell the property within a year. So one nice thing about flips is if you've got a lot of losses that you're piling up on something or write-offs, the flip can actually come in and you can end up offsetting a lot of that increase. But if you want to avoid being taxed as earned income, you want to hold it for a year or more. And then it's taxed as capital gains, which we actually did on one of our properties that we're going to be sharing with you. It's best for well-capitalized investors who work full-time in a local market. The reason for that is when you go into a fix and flip, sometimes you run into things, which we have lots of stories that you don't expect. A fix and flip, because there is a timing in the market, is really not great for people that are very tight on cash or can't weather some bumps, because there are surprises. It can be a high risk investment strategy that hinges on correctly timing the market. But again, you can mitigate that through multiple exit strategies. And if there's too many fix and flippers in a single market, it can make below market deals extremely difficult to find. And I have seen that definitely in areas when I was an agent in Colorado Springs. I worked with a lot of flippers, and we really got to the point where you could see like it was tough to buy properties at an amount that actually people could make money. So you want to pay attention to what's going on in the market. All right, so here's the pros to fix and flips. You do have that potential, as I mentioned, to make a huge profit. It's absolutely great for people with high skill level. But Levi and Carly, we didn't necessarily go into this with what I would call high skill level. You guys develop the skills. Would you agree?
I would totally agree with that.
It's amazing to see what you can do. Like right now, we look at Levi and it's like, he could do anything. And then we have these pictures of Carly where she's mudding walls with Levi. So we have definitely grown into some of that. It can be less risky than other types of real estate investing. And part of that is when you're in flipping, you're really in the single family homes. Mostly you might be in a condo, but there's always a need for people to have a place to live. You can gain a lot of useful real estate experience, which we have gained a lot. Some of it you don't really want to gain, but you end up gaining and being thankful for it. And then you can gain greater insights into your local market, which has definitely been a benefit that we've seen. Here's some of the cons, just to be upfront. There is a potential to lose your investment, okay? So if something goes wrong during the flip, maybe you didn't assess it right in the front end, or maybe if your only exit strategy is to sell the house and the market takes a dip, it can be risky. It may require outside help and support. We certainly lean into people. It requires intense planning and budgeting, which we have found as well. There can be unanticipated costs that arise, and they could be substantial. That's why in coaching, we always are coaching clients. They send us their inspection reports. We talk to them about it. Like, hey, we're looking at buying this. We run the ratios. Mike has this amazing spreadsheet. So we really help you in that coaching program to mitigate that risk. And it does require some in-depth knowledge of the real estate industry. There are a lot of things to consider, but let me tell you, you have every ability to gain this insight just like we did. All right, so let's talk about why fix and flips are really a good strategy for you growing your real estate portfolio. So I just kind of put this together And it's actually kind of our story, sort of, maybe not exact numbers. But let me just walk you down the path. We started investing in real estate. Levi, was it like 2021?
Yeah, I think it was early 21.
Yeah, where we decided that we had heard so much about this and we were going to get in the game. So we had a certain dollar amount of money that we decided that we were going to invest in real estate. We looked around South Lake here, which is where I am today and where our house was, and we quickly understood this was not the market for us. And the reason was the average price of homes was almost $1 million. So basically we would be able to buy one piece of real estate and we'd have to figure out how to either sell it or something. It would have taken all of our cash. So Levi looked into here a market that fit the ratios, long story, but it was McGregor, Texas. So we went into that market. So we went in and we had a certain amount of cash. So when you look at going in and buying real estate and you look at going in and doing a buy and hold, there is a certain amount of money that you have to put down. So if you've got a finite amount of money, I think most of us don't have unlimited capital, and you put 10% down, let's say, which was one of our first purchases, that's $25,000, plus we had to put about $5,000 in to get the property. And then we turned it into something where we got the ratios and we made some money on it. But when you look at the cash flows, those are good. They sustain you, and that's how you build long-term wealth, right? But when you go in and buy properties, what you'll see here is there is a point as you buy properties that you need to get money to refill the bucket, right, from the amount that you started to invest. And that's where we did, Billy recommends, and this is what we followed, you do maybe 2 to 3 buy and holds, and then you do a flip. The reason you do that is if I started that with $150,000 and I bought 3 properties, my cash is going to be down quite a bit. So the next deal, I need to replenish my cash, okay? And that is a huge benefit of doing a flip. Another big benefit of doing a flip is something called the real estate professional designation. Now, Bill Bronchek at the workshop is going to do a whole session on this. But when you have a real estate designation, basically, instead of you being limited at writing off a loss or depreciation of $25,000 a year, it removes the cap off of that. So it allows you to be in the game and have unlimited, you might say, write-offs that are definitely yours, but that's one of the biggest benefits of real estate. So here's just a couple things to keep in mind with a real estate professional designation. Again, Bill will be covering this in a workshop session at the upcoming real estate workshop. So you will have a real estate professional qualification. And a lot of people ask, well, how do I get that? Do I apply for it? You know what? You and your CPA are the ones that make a decision that says, like, yes, you actually qualify for it. So your CPA can help with that. A requirement is that you have a material participation in specific rentals. Material participation in separate real property trade or business. So for example, part of Levi getting his real estate license is it contributed to him qualifying for the real estate designation. There's something called a 50% rule, a 750 hours rule, and a 5% ownership rule. Again, you can learn more about it, but here's a little recap that I think is really helpful. Oops, sorry about that, that I pulled from a website. So it says this: to qualify as a professional for tax purposes, a taxpayer or their spouse must meet a 2-part test. Number 1, the taxpayer must spend the majority of his or her time in real property businesses. And number 2, the taxpayer must spend 750 hours or more in the real property business and rentals where we materially participate. The biggest question we are often asked is what occupations qualify as real property businesses. The IRS does not statutorily list which jobs qualify, but if you are working as an entrepreneur in the real estate industry, licensed or not, we say we want to talk about it. Finally, it's important to also materially participate in the management of properties. However, the beauty is that you can actually qualify for material participation under 7 different tests. So obviously, we're not going to be able to go through that, but I just want to plant that seed that when you do fix and flips, you actually can escalate your qualification. And Billy did something, I think it's actually on Wealth Builders University, where he took you through how fix and flips help you to get to that real estate designation faster. Now, I just want to tell you from personal experience, this is actually thousands and thousands of dollars of potential saved tax money for you. And so looking at fix and flips, they're really fun. You get a lot of cash, but this is like one of those caveats that if you go into fix and flips, it's a benefit that you can experience that is going to really save you tax dollars on all of your real estate investments. Okay. All right, so next let's go to steps to a flip. All right, so here we go. Number 1 is research the market. The first step towards serious house flipping is knowing the market. So Levi and Carly, I would love for you to comment on this. What's the best way for someone to actually gain knowledge to see if the market that they're in or they want to be in is a good flip market?
Ooh, I would say just analyzing properties. I think like even before you do your first deal, if you can be analyzing 100 houses, which doesn't have to be 100, it's just kind of a arbitrary number, but know what fixer-uppers are selling for, figure out your best estimate, talking to people that have done it or local contractors, figure out what it would take to fix them up, and then look at what ARV is. That's that same house being sold all fixed up and beautiful, and see what the spread is between those first two and that third one. And if there's a big spread, there's a lot of profit to be had. It's a good flip market. If there's not, probably is not a good flip
Yeah,
market.
and ARV stands for after repair value. And when you have a good real estate agent, they're able to really assess that for you to just give you an idea of what this house could be worth. And so again, Levi, you're really good at researching this and have done a great job identifying properties. Number 2, secure your finances. Before you even consider a purchase, you're going to need the money to flip the house. We're going to go into some financing options and share with you some things that we've done. But if you go into a deal and you don't have your financing in place, you basically have no negotiation power because you don't have the ability to close. So if you really want to do this, get that in place. And then when you go in and you make a deal, you have the chance to get that property at a lower price because they know you can close. Number 3, understand renovation, holding, and closing costs. We'll talk more about this too. It's really important that we know all the steps of the way that we're going to incur fees or costs and build that into the actual calculation. Find and buy a house. We're going to share with you the 70% rule. And of course, number 5, we want to sell for a profit. So we're going to share briefly on the 70% rule. The 70% rule says that an investor should aim to pay no more than 70% of a property's after repair value or ARV. This is a basic 30,000 foot calculation. There are definitely some nuances in there, and Levi's going to share a little bit about that, but basically it includes the price you pay for the property itself, as well as any estimated repair costs. Levi, can you comment on some of the variables that may need to be considered with that 70% ARV?
Absolutely. I think the 70% of ARV minus repairs is a good rule of thumb. If you have a property that's close, there's a few different levers that you might be able to either increase your profit or decrease your costs. That I'm not saying it's a good idea at that point, but it may be worth looking into to try to make a deal work. Your number one way to save money, I think, is debt service costs. So the bank loans that we use, typically, we will fund some things cash as well. We're paying 1% points up front and then probably 11% interest for a minimum of 6 months for the life of the project. And that cost obviously just goes away if you were to buy the house completely cash and fund the improvements completely cash, because that loan actually includes 100% of the construction costs as well. So if you have the money and there's a deal that's kind of right on the fence, you might be able to just put more of your own money in, and that saves you debt service costs because you're not using a bank, you're being your own bank. Um, Profit, I think 10% of ARV, it's really not safe to go below that, because if the market changes or something like that, that's one I would not negotiate with. I would keep at least 10% of ARV profit. If you are a real estate agent, some of those sale commissions will be going to you if you're listing your own house. So that's another way that you can save things as well. Um, and if you have a lot of experience in construction, there could be someone watching this that is a general contractor but wants to flip house on the side, or someone that is, has the systems in place or the acumen to be able to kind of do what we do, is take some of those resources in-house. You could also save money on repairs as well. And those are just a few ways that you could, potentially either increase your profit or go above the 70% rule and still come out okay. But I would say, I'm just me personally, if you're not close to that, I don't think there's a deal there. You really don't want to be using those levers unless you're close. Just my opinion.
That's really good. And one of our properties that we just did, we call it Second Street. You guys really did some things to kind of maximize that property. And I'm just going to ask Carly here to comment, because there were some things that you guys are like, you know what, we're going to mud this. So Carly, you actually learned how to mud walls and paint and do things. So what was that experience like for you?
It's so fun. I am a construction girl now, and I've never touched school in my life. So if I can do it, you can do it. But I think it was super fun learning new skills. I have now seen a full project from start to finish, and I like know the steps. It's really cool to, like I said, learn new skills. So things like mudding, we did an entire new room together.
Yeah,
Um,
we actually added a third bedroom to this house too.
was awesome. I mean, like just any little thing, I just can't even like remember all the full details because it was just so many little things I got to learn. We like painted the whole house together. We did all of like the shoe and all the baseboards and everything. And so it's just like, babe, show me how to do this. We'll go do it. I have
I
no
have to
idea.
I have to brag on Carly because we had just gotten married. She just moved to Florida. We closed in this house, which is not beachside. We live beachside. This is like inland in like more South Florida, actually. It's south of where we live. And in July, so we worked on it July, August, September, which is the hottest, most humid time of the month. We left our like nice breezy house, drove down there, and right after getting married, get back to the honeymoon. That,
Not to mention all the junk removal. So it was like super
oh, yeah.
going
So,
through.
so some of you guys are at home and you're evaluating flips and you're like, there's no deals in my market, not realizing that if your wife fixes up the house for you, your repair costs are a lot less and you can make a lot of deals pencil. That you don't meet the 70% rule, but your labor costs could be a lot less.
There you go.
That's so funny. That's so
I'm
great, you guys. And I bring that up because that was actually one of the ways that you made a deal work. And maybe it doesn't seem like much, but if you would have had to hire someone to do the painting, that was $3,000 or $4,000, and you guys did it for the price of the paint. So I just think it just shows like, hey, there are ways to do things. And that was a practical thing that you guys did to make the numbers work, and you did a great job.
Mhm.
All right, so how do you find these markets? Ultimately, the best cities to flip houses in will have all the right ingredients. These are some that we list: the potential of a good ROI, the affordable renovation costs, high demand for homes, and good economic growth. And there is still a shortage of homes in the area, but there are some ratios in, again, we'll go into that in more detail, but there is a way to look at areas and know if that increased potential is there and how much you need to go or to do to actually bring that increase to make the flips work. So here is just an example of one of them that we actually did. This was a couple years ago, and it was a flip that Levi identified down in McGregor, Texas. This was, I've bought in so many houses over FaceTime. This was one of them that we bought. But here's some things that we looked for. We looked for the neighborhood, right? That's a big thing that we look for in properties. And this one happened to be in the heart of the community. It was in a strong neighborhood. It was on a half-acre property. It had good bones, right? So that just means it was a solid house. You can see it's a one-level brick house. There wasn't a whole lot to go wrong with it. We bought it at $85 a square foot. And one of the things that we looked at is new builds, because by the time we were going to get done with this, it would compete with new builds. And they were at that point selling for $135 a square foot. So we knew we had potential. So Levi, you were the one that identified this. What stood out with this property that you knew would be a good flip?
Well, by the time we, I guess, evaluated this one, we had already done a few other projects, and this house had, I'll say, it had some good things going for it that I knew would be less expensive down the road. So I would say like the rehab cost was like it wasn't as intensive of a rehab than it looked because it was mostly cosmetic. The previous owners had made some structural updates that kind of like, okay, we can just come in and make this look beautiful. And although there, there was some plumbing and electrical that needed to be dealt with and windows. Um, there was some other stuff that didn't need to be done, roof, HVAC, some other things as well. But I think it was, just the the desirable location and the fact that I felt like the neighborhood had an absence of larger square footage homes. So I felt like there was a demand for the kind of product that we could build this into on this particular area of town.
That's awesome. Thank you. Well, that was a before. And then this is the after. So you can just see some of the things we did. We painted the brick. We didn't change any of the footprint. We switched out the front door. We just updated it and made it really look really nice, kind of combining the elements of the things that were really cool about it with some of the updates, putting in little flower boxes and things. It had a really amazing curb appeal. I think something that's kind of funny, Levi, I still remember this, is this little swing over here, right? I remember us painting that, and we painted it the sealskin. It turned out great. So a lot of times there's just some charming aspects of the home that you can maximize, update, and it just really makes the house. Here's just some of the project when we bought it. Like you can see here, when we walked in, normally if you were buying a house for yourself, these would be things that you're like, oh my gosh, I've never seen so many doors in a house. We're like, wow, oh my goodness, I've never seen so many doors in the house. It's all closed in. It becomes exciting when you do a flip because you see the potential. And then as you can see in here, this was a family room and they had 8-foot ceilings, beams, and then they had like these fans underneath. So when you walked in, you were hitting your head. Those were all good things when looking at a flip. You will also see too, there was a lot of walls here that this behind here, this is the entry. So behind here was one of those rooms, so many rooms. And when we looked at it, we realized we could actually cut this out without having to do anything different with a header. So I think that was a big thing too. And something that you want to look for is like, what can we do to open this up without having to change the headers or the weight bearing walls? And so you'll see some afters that will help with that. The brick was really beautiful, dated, so we did something with that that you'll see. This is the living room. Here's the front door. Here's the formal living room and the dining room. Again, they were like separate rooms, and we knew that if we could just open it up a little bit, that it would really be a winner. Look at this stunning kitchen. When we bought it, this is what the kitchen looked like, and behind here was actually that formal dining room, and then it extended here. But you know, a wall of brick was really positive, and also these cabinets were charming and they were solid oak. So you'll see what we did with those. So there's a before of the kitchen. Everybody likes to look at before and afters. Here's the after. Okay, so I'm going to take you back to the before. Before, see, all this is closed off, right? We did some things here. And the after. So we kept the load-bearing walls, like I said, we didn't have to switch out any headers. We kept the electrical actually in the studs that they were originally, but look how this opened up the whole kitchen. And then we did something called a schmear technique here that still showed the beauty and the age of the home, which we felt had a lot of character. We painted these cupboards and cabinets because, again, they were solid oak and we felt it really fit with the charm of the home. Did new flooring, did a little custom island that didn't cost much because this was a very narrow space. We did all new handles, we did all new light fixtures, but look at this, the difference between looking at a wall and being able to look all the way through and then open this up. It was totally a game changer. Also, here's a little tip for you. When you've got something that's coming down like that hood, we actually were able to purchase a hood that went up inside and opened it up. New backsplash. So that was the kitchen before and after. This was quite the deal. One of the things we did with this property is we switched the master, what was the master, we made into the second bedroom, and we moved the master over to the other side of the house and opened it up a little bit. Long story, you can watch more about that in Sweetie Hospitality. It's all of season 1. But here was the master before, and here's the master after. And so again, we painted this new countertop, but like Levi said, a lot of it was cosmetic. We definitely pulled that wall back a bit, but it didn't even look like the same bathroom or house. So I'm going to share some of the numbers with you on that too. But before I do that, I'm going to give you a few examples of before and afters of projects that we've done. This is one that is this is our most recent one. This is what the property looked like when we purchased it. This is what it looks like today. We just launched this with an Airbnb. We have 2 amazing 5-star ratings on that. And Levi and Carly, can you just comment a little bit on how we approach this property? I'm going to show them some inside pictures too.
Yeah, so we approached this property, I think, with all 3 exit strategies. So if we sold it, if we kept it as a long-term rental or as an Airbnb, we could have definitely sold the property and made money off of it and made a really good profit, but they're not making any more land, especially on the barrier island that this property is located on in Florida. This property is about a block from downtown Cocoa Beach and a block from the beach. So it's a real gem, and we wanted to hold it as a family. And the best way to do that, to monetize it, is as an Airbnb. So that's how we kept it. We ran the 70% rule just like any other property on this particular one. And the rehab actually ended up costing more than what we anticipated, partially because the house ended up being 300 square foot bigger than what it was marketed as, that we didn't know. And this house was a complete, like a full gut rehab. We had to bury the electrical service, all new PVC drains, took the drop ceiling out, new HVAC, completely new ductwork. We replaced most of the like the rafters even that hold up the roof because they had such severe wood rot. So The only thing that we kept on this house was the block exterior walls. And
True.
we even raised a lot of the foundation because it was the original footprint of the house was a driveway, a carport, and the original main house at three different living areas that someone had added on and enclosed over time. So this was the 70% rule, just like anything else. We wanted to hold the property, so we're able to do that through an Airbnb. It's going to be a wealth building gym for our family, I think. And the scope of the project was replacing pretty much everything.
Yeah, this was a really big project, and you'll see the before and after. So this used to kind of freak me out a bit, seeing a property like this. Now it's just fun, part of the process, and this is the after. It just turned out really gorgeous. And then here's another one. This is the kitchen. This, oh, it was crazy. We had plumbing going out the wall. There was a lot going on with this. So this is a before, this is the after. We didn't use super expensive finishes, but what we did is we used finishes that look expensive, and there's a difference. And the color in there, just bringing some freshness in. Sometimes you run into code issues. Like, for example, we couldn't really, this was out of code to put a stove underneath windows. So we closed it in with block windows. That was Levi's idea, and it actually gave it a great design element, and it allowed us to be in compliance as well. One more before and after here. This was the bathroom beforehand, and then, oops, and then this is the after. So that again has just been a really fun project. This is actually a project that is something that Levi and Carly and I worked with them too, where we went in and we were helping a client with a 4 unit. And this is just an example of a strategy where if I looked at this property and I looked at this bathroom, I would have probably said we need to totally gut it, right? Well, what we did and what Levi and Carly was like, let's do this, they enameled it. Okay, so this is not new tile. This is an enamel process that just costs several $100s versus thousands of dollars for a rehab. So we have lots of tips to help you to really make an impact with a smaller amount of money. This is the Second Street one that we were talking about. This was the before. There's a story with that. This is the after. We didn't change anything with the footprint, but look at just paint and just using some design elements, some landscaping. These are actually magnetic things you put on the garage. This looks completely different, and it really is mostly paint and landscaping, very minimal price. This is a recent project we did where we went in, we took over an existing Airbnb. We went in and we did redesign. Carly did such a great job with the redesign, and this is the after. Again, there's nothing major. We didn't have to dig up the terrazzo floor, but there's so much that you can do just in design that's going to really help you to maximize the value of a property. Okay, so I'm gonna just finish up here with the details of the close of the sale of the property that we did that flip on. By the time that we were ready to sell that house, new builds had gone from $135 a square foot up to $165 to $170 a square foot. We actually chose to hang on to that property for a year to avoid earned income. We rented it out as a short-term lease for a family that had a fire. And basically, they rented it from us for about 6 months, maybe it was 5 months. And because we were able to actually charge them higher, those 5 or 6 months of rent payments covered our entire year of payments on that property. We bought this as a conventional, which is not how we do it now, but we did it at that point, and we funded the improvements ourselves. And with that, what we did is then we sold it, and I'll give you the numbers here. Different ways to finance it. So if we go back here, the pending sale of an outdated home in town was $375, so we were really pushing the limit. However, the demand for in-town homes was increasing. We bought it at $225, and we made a decision we were going to try to sell it in the low fours. So we ended up selling it at $168 a square foot. We bought it at $85 a square foot. We sold it at $435,000, $10,000 over asking. I have a story with that. I don't have time to share with you, but Our first appraisal came in low, but it worked out great. And then what we were able to do is we actually were able to establish a whole new level of comps for that community. So we did really well. We're so thankful to God for that sale, and it replenished our cash to be able to start moving into the Florida market. All right, so you guys, we are out of time. I want to really encourage you. Levi and Carly are going to do a workshop session with me where we're going to go more into detail on fix and flips and the benefits. But we want to take some time to answer questions. And so while I kind of get out of this PowerPoint, I'm going to ask Frank and Mike to come back on, and I would just love you to share some of your thoughts on fix and flips. And Frank, I'll start with you.
Just a couple of notes. That was great, by the way, and kudos to all three of you. That was awesome. With your maximum allowable offer, one of the things you're going to want to do is maybe come in a couple of grand below that if you can. So you got a little bit of working room, but don't make it ridiculous. And that's why it's important to work with realtors that work with investors, because your regular run-of-the-mill realtor, they are motivated by the higher price they sell the house, the more they make. And one that works with investors looks at you as a long-term person. So the other thing too is credit. We all need credit. Work on your credit while you still have a job. Makes it a lot easier when you start investing. That's it.
Awesome. Mike.
I just think it's great. You gave the nuts and bolts that where people can say, you know what, I believe I can do this. And that's the biggest part, I think, in real estate, Karen, is just knowing, having the wisdom and the confidence and believing, just like Carly says, she says, I can do this now. So I believe that's a big part of the real estate business.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so here is some questions that are coming in. We've got a lot of great questions, and we're going to try to answer as many of them as possible. Levi, this first one is going to be directed to you. This is Sarah, and she said, what was the fourth level again when you were talking at the beginning about 4 levels of flips? The first one was outsourcing them all. Second was self-hire subcontractors and buy from Home Depot. The third was buy in bulk to do most of your own work. What was a fourth?
Well, third is not do most of your own work, it's have your own in-house team. So buy material in
Okay.
bulk, and then you have salaried W-2 employees that are working for you no matter what, and you're able to basically get a lot cheaper labor because they're not marking up those jobs like certainly a general would, and even a sub would as well. For the fourth level is doing all the work yourself because there's zero labor costs. Is that scalable? No. Is it a good idea? I mean, probably not unless you kind of have the acumen for them. But that is the cheapest way to get a project done is you do it 100% yourself, and um, takes a long time, and it's a lot of work. But that is the fourth level, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, this is a question from Joshua. It's a long question, and so Joshua, I'm going to touch on as many as we can. The loan that we talked about initially that we got was a conventional loan. So here's the thing, when we first started going in and purchasing, we actually went and purchased it in our own names. We don't do that anymore. Okay, so we were able to get a conventional loan for that, but that was a little ways away. Like some things have tightened up, but that's what we did. And then your question, were you able to get the loan in your business name or personal name? So initially, and this is what we share with people too, and Frank and Mike jump in, when you start to get into real estate and you have an LLC, if your LLC has no history, the fact of the matter is you're going to have to jump in and probably get those first properties in your name. Would you guys agree?
Agreed. Yep.
But I was surprised it did not take us long. And actually, Levi did some great work on researching lenders. And once you have a little bit of history, I remember that you guys, we put together a PowerPoint. We're showing all our properties. We were showing like we know what we're doing type of presentation for a lender. And then now we've got a lender that that Levi just basically says, "Hey, we found another one." Okay. And then we fund it in a way that is based on ARV. We put a percentage down, interest only payments during construction, that type of thing. And then we refi it at the end. Again, we'll cover much more of this at the upcoming workshop because these are details like you need to know and how to walk through it. And then Joshua says, is there a good way to get MLS data to analyze sales in our area if we don't have access to MLS? What websites would you recommend? I really like to use realtor.com, okay? And even Zillow for different things. And there is a workshop that I actually take you through that helps you to be able to go through and analyze and find data. But realtor.com is probably personal preference, but to me that's like really easy to navigate, and you can get almost as much information on Zillow, realtor.com, Redfin, those as you can on MLS. But where we really lean into MLS is like, hey, what's the zoning on this? Like there's a lot more details you can get, but overall to do an initial analysis, those work. Mike, Frank, anything to add to that?
We're good.
Nope. Got it? Okay. Laura Ann says this, it seems that obtaining a real estate license is needed for knowledge and for saving money. Is this accurate? I had put issues at hand for me in the general chat earlier. I suppose a question would be how to find skilled, honest workmen. You know what, Mike? I'm going to actually have you answer that one.
As far as finding people, if you have a great realtor who does investments herself, she can probably help you because she's going to have the team for you, Karen. And so she will know the property manager, the contractors, and everybody like that. So that would be the number one team member that you would need to search out for.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a real estate agent yourself. A matter of fact, some people choose not to be on purpose for various reasons. We just went that route just because we had a lot of real estate knowledge. It made sense. Levi was down there, and it really helps us financially. But there are pros and cons to that. But you do not need to be a real estate agent to be able to do flips and be knowledgeable. And then Todd says, does a 70% of ARV typically apply if I don't want to do any of the work myself? If not, where does that 70% number go? In my opinion, the 70% is based on you not doing the work. The way that you can actually put yourself in a better position and maybe not have to follow that 70% rule is to do some of the work yourself. But Frank, what do you think about that?
No, I agree with you. That 70%. I mean, if you're doing some work yourself, then you should get a bonus, as far as profit. And just remember, and this is general rule of thumb, your net profit should equal about 10 to 15% of the final selling price of the house. So if you sold it for $100,000, which there's no more of those, but your net profit after everything's said and done should be $10 to $15,000.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I can't believe it. This hour goes by so fast. We're already out of time, but here's what I want to share with you. We do a podcast every week. And so what I'm going to commit to you, just like I did with our Wealth Builders Bootcamp, is we're going to take these remaining questions. I'll get the coaching team on and we will answer as many of those as we can in the podcast. But if you really are interested in real estate and you really want the opportunity to ask questions, to be around other people, come to the workshop. We have a handful of in-person seats left. You can also join by live stream. And Billy, he was at the men's advance and he was saying like, this is a time to buy. He is out there buying. So I would just encourage you, if God's put on your heart to do real estate, we build everything based on biblical, the word of God, biblical principles, and we bring the how-to. All of us are in the game, so come be a part of that. You can go to wealthbuilders.org/event. And I just think if real estate is something you want to do or you want to scale up, you don't want to miss this. And so I want to just give the coaches just a moment to give a final thought. I'm going to start with you, Levi and Carly. Any final thoughts to share with people tonight?
Ooh. There's really no substitute for like experience in real estate. And even though it can feel like it's difficult to get your first deal, And that's like the most time consuming, probably analysis, searching process is to find your first one. I feel like in our experience, every single rehab has gotten easier that like the next one that we do because we've learned more and we've, fixed mistakes that we've made before. Every single house that we evaluate, it gets easier to analyze and know the numbers and stuff like that. So real estate is one of the few businesses that the rents go up over time. Hopefully your debt stays the same, values go up over time, you get better, you learn who not to work with, who to work with, and hopefully you're doing more volume and getting better deals on everything from labor to materials to negotiating your debt rates down. So if it feels like it's difficult to get started, know that every single house that you buy it's getting easier. It's going to get more profitable as you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Frank.
Like any business, real estate is numbers. I mean, that's it, pure and simple. The rest is all gloss. And the fact is, especially when you're first starting out, it's so easy to get caught up in wanting to get into the game and you pay too much. Then you lose money on the deal and you tell everybody that this doesn't work. Well, I'm telling you, if you stick to the numbers, it works.
That's awesome, Frank. Thank you, Mike.
Well, if this is what they want to do, they really need to come to the workshop, Karen, because then they can have the knowledge and wisdom and understanding, and it won't be such a scary thing for them to get involved in, and they won't lose their money.
That's so good. We would love to see all of you there. Q&A, great networking. So again, go to wealthbuilders.org/events. You can also reach out to us anytime at info@wealthbuilders.org. And we are just so blessed that you joined us tonight. And you know what? We have the opportunity to really bring transformation. We call it to our neighborhoods, cities, and nations. And we believe that investing in real estate is a significant pathway towards that. So thank you for joining us, our wonderful Wealth Builders family. God bless you and have an amazing rest of the night.